The night air trembled as drums echoed across the savannah, their thunder shaking the hearts of the gathered villagers. Zola said, "Why does the rhythm feel heavy, as if it carries sorrow instead of celebration?" Elder Jabari, stooped yet dignified, raised his hand toward the sacred flame, his voice deep and urgent. "Children, tonight the ancestors whisper a warning, and we must listen closely." Suddenly, the fire flared unnaturally high, revealing streaks of blue flame that no one had ever seen. The villagers gasped, fear rippling through the circle. Io, the young protector, whispered, "The flame is sick. It should never burn such a color." The elder's staff cracked as he leaned forward, his eyes glazing with an otherworldly shine. "The curse awakens, and only the dancer of fire may soothe it." Zola felt her chest tighten, as if unseen hands squeezed her heart, and she staggered backward in disbelief. Chief Kato, towering in his crimson robes, narrowed his eyes, concealing a sinister smile as shadows crossed his face. Suddenly, Elder Jabari collapsed, his last breath spilling a curse into the earth. "The flame has been betrayed." The crowd erupted in wails, the drums stopping at once, leaving silence more terrifying than thunder. Zola stared at the fallen elder, tears burning her eyes, realizing her destiny had been ignited in grief. The villagers wailed in despair as the sacred drums lay silent, their rhythms broken by grief. Zola clutched her chest, her voice trembling. Why would the ancestors abandon us tonight? Her words fell into silence as the people turned to her, whispers stirring like restless leaves in the wind. Elder Jabari's body was carried away with solemn reverence, his staff left lying near the fire as though waiting for a new hand to claim it. Chief Kato's voice cut through the morning, smooth yet sharp. "The fire has chosen its sign, and it is weakness. We cannot cling to failing traditions." Io glared at him, fists clenched. "You dishonor the elder's spirit with such words," he growled. Zola's tears burned, but inside she felt a strange heat rising in her chest. The villagers murmured, torn between fear and the need for hope, their eyes darting between the fallen staff and Zola's trembling hands. In that moment, she realized the burden was not simply grief, but destiny pressing upon her shoulders. The storm thickened, clouds groaning above the village as lightning streaked the horizon. A child cried, "The sky weeps with us," and the words spread through the gathering like prophecy. Zola lifted her chin, her face streaked with tears, but her eyes defiant. "We must not lose hope." Io stepped closer, his presence steady, his voice low. "The ancestors have chosen you, Zola. They did not abandon us, they called you." The crowd stirred uneasily, some nodding while others turned their backs. Chief Kato's voice rose, persuasive and venomous. "A dancer of fire cannot save us. We need strength, not foolish rituals." Murmurs of agreement grew, feeding division. Zola trembled, torn between doubt and duty, but she felt the warmth in her chest deepen, as though the fire itself whispered her name. The villagers gathered in clusters, torn between belief and fear. An older woman said, "The flame has spoken. Only a chosen heart can heal it." Chief Kato swept forward, his crimson robe flowing. "Do not be deceived," he thundered. "This curse demands power, not childish dances." His words struck deeply, swaying many. Zola clenched her fists, her voice shaking yet steady. "I will not run. If the ancestors call me, I will answer." Silence hung heavy, broken only by the crackle of fire. Io placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, his eyes burning with loyalty. The villagers shifted uneasily, uncertain which path to follow, the lure of power or the call of tradition. As dawn threatened the horizon, the fire flickered weakly, blue sparks fading into ash. The people sat in silence, their grief heavy yet restless. Zola gazed into the dying embers, whispering, "If the flame dies, our spirits will follow." Her words stirred unease, but also courage in those listening. Io said, "Then you must dance, Zola, for the ancestors have chosen your steps." Chief Kato folded his arms, eyes sharp as knives. "And if she fails, the land burns with her." The tension cut deep, Yet Zola felt the fire within her grow stronger, a warmth that steadied her trembling hands. She rose, her figure outlined against the fading night. For the first time, she felt her destiny no longer hidden but alive, burning and undeniable. The dawn broke with heavy skies as the villagers gathered around the smoldering ashes of the sacred fire. Zola sat silently, her heart still trembling from the night's revelations. Io knelt beside her, his voice steady yet fierce. "The ancestors have spoken through the flame, Zola. You are the chosen dancer." She shook her head, her eyes wet. "I am no savior. I am only a daughter of this village." The people whispered among themselves, their fear thick as smoke. Suddenly, Elder Jabari's staff began to glow faintly where it rested in the dust. The wise elder's apprentice, Mama Kendi, stepped forward, her wrinkled face resolute. "Child, the spirit of Jabari has not abandoned you. His wisdom will guide you still." Zola touched the staff with trembling fingers, and a warmth surged into her chest. The whispers hushed as all eyes fixed on her. Chief Kato broke the silence with venomous certainty. "A glowing stick does not make a leader. Destiny is forged by power, not weakness." Yet the villagers looked back at Zola, torn between fear and hope, waiting for her to decide. Later, in the sacred grove, the air shimmered with mist and the fragrance of burning herbs. Zola followed Mama Kendi, who moved with grace despite her age. The elder woman said, "The dance is not learned in steps but in spirit. Do you carry the fire in your soul?" Zola whispered, "I carry only fear." Mama Kendi placed a hand on her shoulder. "Fear is the seed. The ancestors water it into strength." From the shadows, Io appeared, holding a small drum. "I will guard her," he declared, his voice sharp as steel. Mama Kendi nodded solemnly. "Then she must listen, not to me, but to the whispers of those who came before." The grove filled with a strange hum, the rustling leaves echoing like voices from another realm. Zola closed her eyes, her body trembling, as the first faint rhythm pulsed within her chest. That evening, the villagers gathered again, restless with unease. Chief Kato stood tall, crimson robe gleaming in firelight. "We waste time on childish rituals. The curse must be fought with strength, not dance." His words stirred the crowd, fear twisting into anger. From the edge of the fire, Zola stepped forward, her staff glowing faintly. "The ancestors have chosen the path," she said, her voice shaking yet firm. "I will dance their fire, even if it consumes me." Gasps rippled through the people. Io raised his drum high, his voice fierce. "She is not alone. The ancestors walk beside her, and so do I." Chief Kato's eyes narrowed with contempt, but a shadow of unease flickered there. Some villagers nodded to Zola, while others turned away. The fire crackled louder, as though it too listened, waiting for her first step. Under the full moon, Zola was led to the river's edge where waters shimmered silver. Mama Kendi sprinkled sacred herbs into the current, her voice chanting in an ancient tongue. "The river spirits test those who seek truth," she murmured. Zola bent down, her reflection trembling on the water's surface. Suddenly the ripples twisted, revealing faces of ancestors long past, their eyes glowing with flame. Zola gasped, clutching the staff tighter. "Ooh." One spirit spoke, its voice like thunder. "Child of fire, your blood is not forgotten. You carry the breath of kings." Her heart pounded as truth struck. Her lineage was not humble but royal, hidden to protect her. Tears filled her eyes. "I never wanted this burden," she whispered. The water shimmered again, fading to silence. Mama Kendi said softly, "What is wanted matters little. What is chosen cannot be undone." The next morning, the village awoke to unrest. Whispers spread that Zola's bloodline was royal, and some bowed in awe while others spat in resentment. The betrayer, her cousin Malika, approached her with a tense smile. "So the forgotten girl is suddenly a queen," Malika said, bitterness hidden beneath sweet words. Zola shook her head, her voice steady. "I never asked for a crown. I only asked to protect our people." Malika's eyes narrowed. "Perhaps protection belongs to those truly deserving." Io stepped between them, his gaze sharp as a blade. Her path is chosen, Malika. Jealousy will not change it. Malika turned away, her robes swirling dramatically, her lips pressed into a bitter smile. Chief Kato watched from afar, a shadow of triumph on his face, as though Malika's envy had become a weapon for his hand. The village square filled with tension as villagers argued, their voices sharp as spears. Some shouted, "Let Zola lead the ritual," while others cried, "Chief Kato speaks truth. Tradition has failed." Zola stood in the center, her staff glowing faintly, her heart pounding like the drums no one dared play. She whispered, "I do not wish to divide you, but the ancestors will not be silenced." Io stepped forward, shielding her with his broad shoulders. "We will not abandon our roots," he declared firmly. Malika smirked from the edge of the crowd, her eyes gleaming with jealousy. "Roots rot when clung to too long," she muttered, loud enough for all to hear. Chief Kato raised his arms, his crimson robe flowing. "The people must choose," he commanded. The crowd murmured with uncertainty, their faith trembling like the flickering fire. For the first time, Zola felt the weight of a nation pressing on her spirit, as if the entire land waited for her to falter. That night, Zola sat alone beneath the ancient baobab tree, its massive roots curling like the arms of ancestors around her. Her chest ached as doubt gnawed at her spirit. She whispered, "Why me? Why not one stronger, wiser, braver?" The wind stirred, carrying a low hum that sounded like voices murmuring her name. Mama Kendi appeared from the shadows, leaning heavily on her staff. "Child, even the lion was once a cub. The fire grows in those who fear it most." Zola's tears glistened in the moonlight. "I am afraid I will fail them all." Mama Kendi smiled faintly, her weathered face kind. "Failure comes only when one refuses to rise. The ancestors do not demand perfection, they demand courage." Zola pressed her forehead to the earth, listening to its heartbeat. For a fleeting moment, the soil beneath her seemed to burn with warmth, and she felt the ancestors breathe with her. By dawn, word spread that raiders from the north had crossed the borderlands, their fires seen in the hills. Panic gripped the village. Chief Kato declared, "See, while we waste time with dancers, our enemies advance." Fear rippled through the people like wind through dry grass. Zola's grip tightened on her staff as she stood before them. "The fire dance is not delay, it is protection. Without it, we stand defenseless." Malika sneered. "Protection in steps and songs? We need warriors, not children chasing sparks." Io roared, his voice carrying over the crowd. "I will stand and fight beside her. Will you?" His courage lit sparks in the villagers' eyes, though fear remained strong. The elders huddled together, whispering, torn between faith in the old ways and fear of the new threat. Zola's heart thundered. The conflict was no longer only spiritual, it was survival itself. As the sun set, shadows lengthened, and the villagers gathered near the sacred fire pit. Zola practiced the first steps of the ancestral dance, her body trembling with every motion. Io struck his drum slowly, guiding her rhythm. She stumbled, frustration clouding her face. "I cannot do this," she whispered. Io's deep voice cut through her doubt. "You already are. Every fall is a step forward." Mama Kendi raised her voice, chanting softly. "Let the ancestors flow through you, child. Do not fight the fire. Become it." Zola closed her eyes, letting the rhythm guide her body. Slowly, her movements became fluid, the sparks of the fire reflecting in her eyes. The villagers watched silently, some awed, others doubtful. Chief Kato turned away, his jaw clenched tight as Malika leaned close to him, whispering words the flames could not hear. That night, as Zola lay in her hut, visions flooded her dreams. She stood in a vast desert of flame, the sky torn with lightning. A towering spirit appeared, cloaked in fire, its voice echoing like thunder. "Child of fire, your path is bound by blood and betrayal." Zola gasped, fear freezing her. "Who betrays me?" she asked, but the spirit's eyes only glowed, showing shadows of familiar faces. She saw Malika's figure among them, her cousin's eyes filled with envy. She saw Chief Kato's crimson robes swirling in smoke. She saw even herself, trembling with doubt. The spirit thundered again. The fire dance will save or consume. The choice is yours. Zola awoke drenched in sweat, her chest burning as if the fire already lived within her. She whispered into the night, "I will not be consumed. I will rise." The night was heavy with silence. As Zola entered the sacred shrine where the ancestors' masks lined the walls, their painted eyes glowing in torchlight. Mama Kendi stood beside her whispering, "You carry their breath, child." Zola's hands trembled as she touched one mask, the wood warm beneath her fingers. A sudden flash of light revealed carvings hidden in its grain, symbols of royalty long forgotten. She gasped, her voice shaking. "This is my blood?" Mama Kendi nodded, her face grave. "You are daughter of kings hidden to protect the fire's heir. Your rise was written before your birth." Zola's heart thundered, fear and pride colliding inside her chest. The revelation was no blessing but a chain, binding her destiny tighter. By dawn, the secret had spread. Villagers whispered in awe and fear, bowing as Zola passed. Malika approached with a forced smile, her eyes sharp as knives. "So cousin, you hid a crown all this time?" Zola shook her head, her voice weary. "It was hidden from me as well." Malika's lips curved in bitterness. "And yet it finds you now." Io stepped forward, his hand resting on his blade. "Her crown is not of gold but fire. Stand aside." Malika's eyes narrowed, and for a moment her smile cracked, envy seeping through like poison. Chief Kato observed from afar, his arms folded, a smirk tugging at his mouth as he watched division bloom. That evening, Zola knelt before the sacred fire, her staff glowing faintly. The flames bent toward her as if drawn by unseen force. She whispered, "I never asked for this, but I cannot turn away." Suddenly shadows swirled in the smoke, and the voice of Elder Jabari echoed, "Your blood binds you, but betrayal walks near." Zola's breath caught as Malika's face flickered in the smoke, her eyes burning with jealousy. Then, another shadow appeared, Chief Kato's crimson silhouette. The fire hissed violently, sparks rising like warnings. Io stepped close, his voice steady. "The ancestors warn us, we must prepare." Zola's heart pounded as truth settled in her chest. The fire had revealed her enemies. Later that night, Malika slipped into Chief Kato's tent, her robe trailing across the floor. Her voice was low, but sharp. "She has taken everything meant for me." Kato leaned forward, his eyes glinting. "Then join me, and it will be yours again." Malika hesitated, her face torn between loyalty and desire. "She is blood," she murmured. Kato smirked coldly. "Blood is nothing when power is at stake." Malika's hands trembled, but slowly she nodded, sealing betrayal with silence. Outside, the wind howled like restless spirits, carrying the scent of fire and storm. At dawn, Zola stood upon the hilltop overlooking the village, her staff glowing as the wind whipped her braids. Mama Kendi approached, her voice steady. "The time has come. The dance must be performed, or all will fall." Zola's heart raced, but she raised her chin. "Then I will dance even if it consumes me." Io placed his hand over his chest, bowing. "I will guard you until my last breath." Yet behind them, Malika stood in the shadows, her eyes glinting with secret resolve, as Chief Kato watched with a smile carved of ambition. The stage was set, the fire's truth, the crown of blood, and the betrayal soon to burn. The morning sun rose bright as Zola trained in the clearing, her body drenched in sweat, her breath sharp with effort. Io struck his drum with steady rhythm, his deep voice calling, "Let the beat guide your steps, not fear." Zola stumbled, frustration curling her lips, but she pushed forward, repeating the movements. "I will not fail them," she whispered, determination flashing in her eyes. Mama Kendi stood nearby, her staff planted firmly in the earth. "The dance is not battle against the body, child. It is surrender to the spirit. Each beat echoed like a heartbeat, pulling Zola deeper into rhythm. Slowly, her movements became fluid, the fire within her aligning with each step. For the first time, she felt herself moving not alone, but with the ancestors themselves. Later, near the sacred fire pit, Mama Kendi guided Zola through chants older than memory. Her voice rose, low and powerful, weaving with the crackle of flames. Zola echoed the words, her throat trembling but strong. "Do not speak them," Mama Kendi said. "Become them." Io listened with reverence, the drum resting on his lap as he whispered. The rhythm bends to her voice. Zola's chest vibrated with the chant, each syllable carrying the weight of her ancestors. Villagers gathered quietly, their eyes wide as sparks rose, drawn to her song. For the first time they saw not a hesitant girl, but a vessel of fire and spirit. Chief Kato watched from the shadows, his smile thin, his thoughts already twisting her gift into a weapon for his plans. As preparations grew, the villagers argued by the river. Some shouted, "The dance will save us," while others cried, "Strength alone can shield us." Chief Kato raised his hands to calm them, his voice smooth as silk. "Tradition binds us in weakness. I offer progress." Malika stood at his side, her gaze cold. "Zola is no queen, no savior. She risks all our lives." Zola stepped forward, her staff glowing, her voice firm though her chest shook. "The ancestors call me not to rule, but to protect. I will not abandon them or you." Io's deep voice boomed behind her. "If she falls, I fall with her." The crowd split, torn between fear of change and faith in ancient truth, their voices clashing like thunder in the wind. Night fell as the ritual site was prepared. The villagers placed carved stones in a great circle, torches flickering in the wind. Mama Kendi moved slowly, sprinkling sacred herbs as she chanted. Zola watched with awe and fear, whispering, "This ground feels alive." Io carried heavy drums into place, his strength unshaken. "It waits for you, Zola," he said. Malika approached, her smile tight. "It waits to consume you." Zola met her cousin's eyes, voice steady. "Then let it consume me if it must. I will not step aside." Malika's smirk faltered, bitterness flashing in her gaze. The air thickened, humming with power, as if spirits pressed close to witness what was about to unfold. At dawn, the ritual ground blazed with firelight as villagers gathered in silence. Zola stood ready, her staff glowing brighter than ever, her breath sharp and steady. Mama Kendi's voice carried across the clearing. "The dance begins tonight, and with it, judgment." Io tightened his grip on his drum, his eyes locked on Zola. "I will follow your rhythm with my life." Malika lingered at the edge, her arms folded, her eyes glinting with hidden schemes. Chief Kato stood tall, his crimson robe shimmering in the light, his smile cold as stone. Zola raised her staff to the sky and whispered, "Ancestors, guide me." The fire roared in response, sparks leaping into the heavens, as the fate of all prepared to be written in flame. The night sky burned with stars as the villagers gathered at the ritual ground, their faces tense, silence broken only by the crackle of torches. Zola stood at the circle's heart, her staff glowing brighter than ever. Her chest heaved as she whispered, "Ancestors, guide my steps." Io struck his drum, the sound rolling like thunder across the earth. Mama Kendi raised her staff, chanting, "Let the fire awaken what was promised." The flames leapt high, bending toward Zola as though alive. Fear rippled through the villagers, some clutching each other, some kneeling. Chief Kato smirked, arms folded. Malika watched from the shadows, her eyes burning with envy. Zola's body trembled as she began her first step, her movements slow, powerful and charged with unseen force. The drums quickened, Zola's body moving faster as sparks leapt from the fire, dancing around her like spirits. Her heart pounded with each step, the rhythm carrying her deeper into trance. Villagers gasped as flames arched upward, taking the shape of ancestral figures who circled her. Io's voice boomed. The ancestors walk with her. The ground vibrated, as if alive, sending shivers through the crowd. Chief Kato's eyes darkened, his patience waning. This spectacle means nothing, he muttered. Malika's lips twisted into a smile, her hand brushing against the dagger hidden beneath her robe. Zola's eyes blazed as she leapt, her staff slamming into earth, the fire roaring in response, shaking the night with power. Suddenly, Chief Kato stormed forward, his voice thundering. Enough! This farce ends tonight. He raised his hand, and hidden gods stepped from the shadows, armed with spears. Villagers screamed, scattering in fear. Malika seized the moment, shouting, "Zola is no savior. She is a curse." Her words cut sharp, feeding panic. Zola froze mid-step, her chest tight with despair, but Io roared, "Stand firm!" He struck his drum so hard it cracked, the sound echoing like lightning. Flames surged, shielding Zola in a circle of fire. Mama Kendi's voice thundered in chant, summoning the ancestors' strength. Zola lifted her staff high, her voice fierce. "I am not curse. I am flame." The fire answered, bursting skyward like a storm. The battle ignited as guards lunged toward the fire. Flames lashed out, forcing them back, but Chief Kato pushed through, his robe whipping like blood in the wind. He shouted, "Power belongs to those who seize it." Malika drew her dagger, her face twisted with rage, charging toward Zola. Io intercepted, knocking the blade aside, his muscles straining as he forced Malika back. She screamed, "It was meant to be mine." Tears burned Zola's eyes, but she stood firm, whispering, "You are my blood, but you chose betrayal." Mama Kendi's voice rose higher, her chant shaking the ground. Sparks burst from the fire, blinding the crowd. The ancestors' forms towered above, their eyes burning, waiting for Zola's final step. With a cry that shook the heavens, Zola spun into her final step, the staff slamming into earth as fire erupted skyward in a blinding storm. The ancestors roared, their voices echoing through the land. Guards dropped their weapons, fleeing in terror. Chief Kato staggered, his smirk broken, flames consuming his robe. Malika fell to her knees, dagger slipping from her hand, tears streaming down her face. Io shielded Zola with his body until the fire settled, then lowered his arms, staring in awe. Mama Kendi whispered, "She has become the flame." Zola stood, her eyes glowing like embers, her chest rising with steady breath. The land itself seemed to tremble with renewal. The dance had not ended, it had only begun. The firestorm faded, leaving silence so deep it weighed on every breath. The villagers knelt, their faces lit by the embers still glowing in the circle. Zola stood at the center, her staff humming faintly with power, her chest heaving with exhaustion. Mama Kendi stepped forward, her voice trembling. "The ancestors have chosen, and their choice stands before you." Io bowed low, his hand pressed over his chest. She carried the flame, and did not break. Malika crouched in the ashes, her dagger forgotten, tears streaking her face as she whispered, "Forgive me, cousin." Zola's heart clenched, her eyes soft with grief, but her voice firm. Betrayal leaves scars, but the fire also heals. The people raised their voices, not in argument but in reverence, their fear transformed into hope. The villagers rebuilt the fire pit with reverence, placing stones carefully, as if touching the ancestors themselves. Zola guided them, her staff glowing as she whispered prayers for renewal. Children watched wide-eyed, whispering her name as if it were legend already. Mama Kendi's chants filled the air, weaving protection into every stone. Io's strong arms lifted heavy rocks, his determination steady as his heartbeat. Malika stood apart, her gaze lowered, shame pressing on her shoulders. Zola glanced at her and spoke softly, "You still have a place among us if you choose to heal." Malika's lips trembled, but no words came. The villagers' voices joined together, their songs rising, turning grief into strength, as a new flame was prepared. That evening, the sacred flame was rekindled, its golden light burning steady, no longer wild. Villagers circled it, singing in harmony. Zola knelt before the fire, her head bowed. "Ancestors, we are whole again," she whispered. Mama Kendi placed a hand on her shoulder, her eyes shining with pride. "The fire dances because you did not falter." Io's voice carried above the songs, strong and sure. "She is not only our protector, she is our living flame." The people cheered, their voices united. Malika approached slowly, her tears falling freely now. She bent low before Zola, her voice breaking. "I was blind, let me walk in your light." Zola touched her cousin's head gently, forgiving with the strength of fire itself. The next day, the village gathered at the river, where the waters shimmered with sunlight. Zola carried the staff into the water, the flame at its tip glowing gently. She lifted it high, her voice steady. "By this fire we vow to protect our land, our people, and our ancestors' truth." The villagers repeated her words, their voices echoing across the water. Mama Kendi raised her arms, blessing the vow. Io stood at Zola's side, his gaze unwavering, his strength a shield. Malika stood close, her eyes no longer burning with envy, but softened with resolve. The river reflected the flame, its light stretching across the surface as if the ancestors themselves sealed the promise. As the sun set, Zola walked alone to the hilltop, overlooking the village where the new flame burned. She stood tall, the staff glowing faintly in her hand, her braids catching the wind. Io approached quietly, but stopped, watching her in silence. Mama Kendi's voice carried faintly from below, blessing the people. Malika worked among the villagers, her hands no longer driven by envy, but by service. Zola whispered to the horizon, "I am no longer only a daughter of this village. I am its flame." The last light of day touched her face, painting her in gold. The ancestors' presence lingered, silent yet proud. For the first time, the land was still, not with fear, but with peace.